Thanks for being with us for this Riz Extra. We're speaking with former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney from Georgia here in the USA, also Green Party presidential candidate. Congresswoman, good to have you. This night, I wonder, I've got to ask what you feel Americans think about the two-party system and how much prospect there really is for a third party in the US.
I think the American people generally understand that we have a flawed political system. But I don't think that they are particularly aware of the way in which these flaws play out to the detriment of the values that they even hold. And of course, one of those flaws is the two-party paradigm that is pushed by the two political parties that are corporately based, as well as the corporate press that bolsters those two corporate political parties. So we have our work cut out for us to explain to the American people just why it is that they have certain values that they would like to see in public policy, and it doesn't happen because basically we've got two political parties that don't respect the values that are held by the public at large.
How much does it frustrate you or anger you as a third-party candidate that the third parties are largely left out of the political narrative? There's virtually no media exposure.
I think people are becoming more and more aware of the fact that they are being shortchanged and are willing to participate in a different way, or at least that's what we're asking people to do. Traditionally, as you probably are aware, the participation rate for people in this country has been pretty low, in fact, abysmally low, and especially when compared with that of other countries. And so we're hoping that we can encourage people to get involved in the political process, to vote for a third-party ticket, a third-party candidate of their choice, but please participate in the process.
How do you get around the cynics who say the third-party vote or voting for a third party is essentially throwing away a vote in America?
Well, really, the vote that is wasted or thrown away is the vote for values that are not reflective of the values of the voter. And we can see that on issues of peace, social justice, ecological wisdom, and election integrity, which are the four pillars of the Green Party. When people vote for the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, they're not voting for peace. When they vote for either of those two parties, they're not voting for social justice. When they vote for either of those two parties, it's clear that we're in the midst of climatic change, and they're not voting for ecological wisdom. And certainly with the track record of the last two presidential elections, they're not voting for election integrity. But a vote for the Green Party, for example, is a vote for all of those values, and those values have been written down by the Green Party in their platform.
Now, of course, America's always been a champion for capitalism, and yet Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke came out saying today there'll be more government spending to help rescue the U.S. economy. What has this done for the U.S. model of capitalism?
I think it's pretty clear that the U.S. model of capitalism is pretty derelict. And at this point, it's time for the great economic thinkers of this country to come together and put a new set of proposals forward. In fact, one of the proposals that we have put forward, and it's available for your audience at runcynthiarun.org, is our platform, which says that we ought to establish a national banking system that provides credit for the critical needs that confront our country, like, for example, infrastructure investment, greening of the environment, manufacturing that green technology so it can be deployed throughout our country, for just a few of the things. And then, of course, the Federal Reserve isn't even federal. So the Federal Reserve ought to become the national preserve of the people of this country, owned by the people of this country and not private bankers.
You made history by being the first African-American woman to represent Georgia in the House of Representatives, and of course Barack Obama could become the first African-American president of the country. Now, if that's the case, how do you think that will redefine the position of African-Americans in America itself and how America stands on the international scale?
Every year on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, a series of reports is published that that explain the state of Black America, from the National Urban League to United for a Fair Economy. And basically, the situation faced, the economic situation, the social justice situation, the health situation with respect to disparities between blacks in this country and whites in this country is pretty much spelled out in these various studies and reports. And basically what we see is that it's a dismal situation. That, of course, is not portrayed on CNN, is not portrayed in the popular media, but that's the fact of the matter. For example, with respect to home ownership, something as simple as home ownership, before the foreclosure crisis and the bailout that resulted from the housing crisis, the racial disparity to close the homeownership gap without a public policy intervention would take over 1,600 years. And of course, because of the discriminatory practices within the banking industry and the predatory lending, we call it, now that is increased to over 5,000 years. There's a 581 wealth income gap. There's a social justice gap. So all of these gaps depict a story that is played out in city after city after city in this country that no one really knows about except the people who are living it. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party has not made closing these racial and ethnic gaps a part of their platform. The Green Party has.
Well, Cynthia McKinney, I thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
That was former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney and Green Party presidential candidate. Thanks for watching Res Extra. We'll see you next time.